John 17:17. Sanctify them, circle sanctify. Sanctify them, that means his disciples and believers who would come after them. That's us today, 2,000 years later. Sanctify them in your what? In the truth. Your word is what? Truth. Circle truth. Sanctify them, that means set them apart, God, for your work. That's what sanctify means. For a special work, like you pick somebody out to go, hey, I choose you to go do this thing. That's what sanctification means. It's like a separating. And we are sanctified by the God who is truth, and the words that come from God are truth. So we live in a culture right now where we don't actually know what's true. We have a thing called fake news, which to previous generations, that's just called lying. So it doesn't matter your political party. It doesn't matter if you watch CNN all the time or MSNBC or Fox News or whatever. It doesn't matter your political slant. The reality is you don't really know what you're seeing on your phone or on your computer or whatever is the actual truth about what happened. Because all editors take their information and they slant it a certain way to try to influence the viewer, to believe that what they're saying about the thing that happened is the actual truth. So the difficult thing for us in our day and age is to go, listen, is there a truth that supersedes personal truths? Is there a truth outside of how I feel about myself? Because my culture, Twitter and Facebook and Snaptagram, is telling me basically how I feel is what's true for me. So if I feel a certain way, that's true for me, and you have to accept the way I feel as truth. So my truth should change the way you look at me. Or is there a truth outside of me that could possibly tell me I'm wrong? Because in our culture, we don't want to tell anybody they're wrong. #hater, right? So our culture, we live in fear. We live in fear of offending. And so we're always like, oh, I don't, everything all right between you and I? Everything all right? And the minute somebody's offended, boy, they'll let you know. Oh, man, I'm offended. What are you offended about? I don't know, but I just feel offended. I want to let you know. #I'm offended. We live in a culture of, I can't wait to be offended so I can tell people about it. Because in our culture, it's somehow it's a virtue to be offended. Like, I was offended today. Congratulations. Well, that's great. I saw you were offended on Facebook. I thought that was a great offense. That's good job. You wrote that so well. Like, you were really mad. Well, that's nice. So well written. Gosh, I felt it right here. We live in a world where we kind of don't know, is there a truth? Is there something we can point to and go, actually, I know the way you feel, but you're wrong, in a loving way? Our culture says, not really, because everybody decides their own truth. But Scripture speaks to it differently. So let's look at it this morning. If you got your notes, it's the first one. If you don't have your notes, it's back there on the stands. How I want to be is deceptive. How do I want to be? How do I want to live? Deceptive. So this might surprise you too. Do you know that when you were born to lie? All of us are born liars. All of us are born deceivers. We are born to love deception. And listen to me, listen. This is going to be something, some of you guys are going to fight me in your mind. You're going to go, I'm not really a liar. I view myself as a pretty honest person. In my business dealings or whatever. I want you to understand something. Lying and deception is so native to our nature that I'm telling you right now, you don't even realize many of the times you're lying or deceiving people or manipulating people with sarcasm, with not quite telling the truth, or telling something that is a little bit deceptive, but it's not a super deceptive thing, and so you don't view it as deception or lying. It's hidden. I want you to understand, you lie so natively, it's so much of your native tongue that when you speak or when you do things, that many times you don't even recognize the fact that you're deceiving people. So how do I want to be naturally? Deceptive. As we live in a fallen, self-focused world, everyone desires their view or their feelings to be the standard of truth by which others should live. When others have what we want or don't share our perspective, deception often happens to manipulate the situation to get our way. So watch. I want this thing. Somebody stands in my way. Say it's finances. And like, I need to make this money. But somebody doesn't have the same view I have about that thing. I know if I tell them the truth, there's a good chance they're not going to get out of the way, or they're not going to open this door for me to get what I want. So in my mind, I have knowledge they don't have. And so I deceive them. I give them either false information or not quite all the information because my desire is to get this thing. When I deceive them, now the door opens and I can get what I want, whether it's finances, popularity, good feelings about myself, whatever it is. But back here, I'll tell a lie or deceive to get what I want on this side. So because truth might not let me get here, my desire is to say, I don't care what's true, I know what I want. And so deception is, I'm going to lead this person on to get what I want. Could be sexual, could be whatever. You lead people astray with what you say and deceive people out of the wickedness of your heart. Look at Deuteronomy 35, 13 through 16. Deuteronomy 35, 13 through 16 says this. This is in the Old Testament. This is God speaking to his people Israel about how the people of God are supposed to act. And guess what? This has to do with business. Because one of the major places people get ripped off is business. And look what God says to the business owners in Israel 3,000 years ago. This is the same time frame as the Ten Commandments. It says this, you shall not have in your bag two kinds of weights, a large and a small. You shall not have in your house two kinds of measures, a large and a small. A full and fair weight you shall have. A full and fair measure you shall have, that your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God has given you. Look at verse 16. For all who do such things, using deception, and all who act dishonestly are an abomination to the Lord your God. You know what this is? So this is unclear to us because we're like, what does a weights in a bag mean? I'll tell you what it means. So before the modern machinery, almost all of human history, if you were to do business, this is what would happen. So I want to buy something from you. I got a bag of gold. And I take it to you as a merchant and I go, I want that thing you've got, that wheel from my chariot. And you get, okay, that's going to be an ounce of gold. Well, here's what would happen. You would go to scales and they would pull out of a bag something that represented 1 ounce of gold, a weight that said 1 ounce on it. And they would place it on the scale and I would shell out 1 ounce of gold on there. Well, here's what would happen. Sometimes they would add lead weight or something into it to make it heavier so that I would have to give more gold to make it look like it's 1 ounce. So it was deceptive to me because I'm the buyer and I'm assuming that the merchant has fair weights that he's pulling out of the bag. Oh, this is 1 ounce. Okay, here's 1 ounce. I need 1 ounce of gold. But what he's actually done is he's either made the weight heavier, so I give more gold to make it seem like it's 1 ounce, but it's actually like 1.2 ounces. So me as the merchant now, I ripped you off because you gave more gold than I was actually asking you for. Or sometimes they would hollow it out and make it lighter or heavier. Whichever way would give the merchant the advantage, the person paying would get ripped off. So it happens in business all the time, even to our day. How many of you guys have ever been to a mechanic? Oh, okay. So some of you know what I'm talking about already. Isn't it sad that in our culture, we have to ask friends, hey, do you know an honest mechanic? Yeah. Why do we have to add the word honest? I can tell you why. Because for those of us that have worked have been monkey wrenches and have worked in garages. It's very easy to manipulate people that don't know what they're talking about when they come to bring their car in. So any of us that have ever brought a car in to a mechanic, you're like, I think the tire pressure is low on my right front tire. So, gosh, I'm going to have the mechanic check it. And you bring it in. And the mechanic takes your car in the back, and you're just thinking, oh, he's going to add some air in there. It's a practically brand new car. And he comes out and tells you, he goes, hey, I just want to let you know, yeah, I fixed the air in your front tire, but you're going to need a whole new transmission. Fuck? Oh, yeah. No, dude, seriously. If you don't get this tranny changed, literally your family's going to blow up in the next 5 minutes. Like you're going to get on the 15 freeway, and boom, the whole family's going to burn. And you're like, dude, I don't want my family to burn. Like, wow, I didn't realize, there's a few kids I could stand losing, but wow, I don't. $12,000 to change a tranny, okay. And so you go in there to get your tire fixed. You have zero idea if your transmission's going to blow up and the whole family's going to die. But I can deceive you because I know what's going on with the tranny, and maybe it's legit, but the reality is you have no idea. So the reason we have to ask people, hey, do you know of an honest mechanic? And then when people go, oh, dude, take it to John because he will not rip you off. Literally everybody with their cars flocks to John. Because they know that they're not, when they get an oil change, they're not going to have to get the whole engine replaced for $15,000. And so understand, in business, same thing 3,000 years ago to literally today, you can rip people off in areas they don't have knowledge in. So if you're a businessman and you're ripping people off, that's wickedness. You're a businesswoman and you're manipulating people or taking advantage of them to make profit in an area that they don't have knowledge of, but you do. That's called wickedness. That's called lying. That comes so natively out of our hearts, sometimes we don't even realize we're doing it. And God says, for God's people to charge people in areas they don't know, to take advantage of people financially, is wickedness. That's evil. Look at Proverbs 6, 12 through 14. Proverbs 6, 12 through 14 says, here's a different kind of taking advantage of people in business. So one is have equal weights. Sell people the right stuff at the right price. This is different. This is actually where you do negotiations. So if you're in a business that does negotiations, if you do a lot of negotiating with contracts and stuff like that, this is what this is. So the other one is kind of like the when I buy something, am I getting what I'm actually paying for? This one is negotiation. So watch this. Here's something that you may have never even heard of before, but it's how people take advantage of other people using a third party. So Proverbs 6, 12 through 14 says this, a worthless person, a wicked man goes about with crooked speech. He winks with his eye, he signals with his feet, and he points with his finger. With a perverted heart, he devises evil, and he continually sows discord. So you know what this is? This is when you're in a business with somebody, or you're going into contract with someone, and say, I'm the businessman, and there's a guy that I want to do business with. He doesn't have knowledge, everything that I've got knowledge of. What I do is I bring in somebody to validate what I'm saying about the price I want to sell it for, and this guy doesn't realize he's getting ripped off, but I'm using a third party we're going in together to manipulate the guy that I'm trying to get to purchase this. And here's how it would work. So I get together with the guy before we're going to go into a contract agreement, and I go, here's the deal. If I shuffle my feet, if I shuffle my left foot, that means we sell for $5,000. If I scratch my nose and I look up to the sky like this, that means we're selling it for 10. And so you get into contract negotiations. What this proverb is saying is, wicked is the man who takes advantage of the person by getting a third party to manipulate him by doing some secret hand signals or secret shuffling of the feet or secret scratching of the shoulder to tell him how to best take advantage of the other person. So two ways of doing business here, and both saying, if you're taking advantage of someone with wicked intent, with sinful intent, it comes from a heart that doesn't have God. Because God is truth, and God's children should be truth. And here's a principle. What is deception? Deception is a purposeful manipulation of a situation to an unsuspecting person for sinful benefit. So look at it this way. We have professional magicians in this church. We have guys that you'll see on TV. And they'll literally, they're so good that you'll sit there and watch their hands, and all of a sudden, bang, here comes a rabbit out of thin air. You're like, no way. You just pulled a living thing out of thin air. Now watch. With sleight of hand, you can deceive people. Magic, at some level, is deception. So why isn't magic deception evil versus deceiving somebody in business? Or this, makeup. So I've already gotten trouble in 2 services, but that's not going to stop me. So think about this. So you're a young man, you marry a nice young lady, you see her on her wedding day. You see all the time on Temecula Talk or Marietta Talk, hey, I need a makeup artist for my wedding day. I need somebody to do my hair, blah, blah. And so you as a young man, you see your gorgeous bride on her wedding day. You see her coming down the aisle. She looks like $1 zillion, like an angel fell from heaven above. And then you get married, and then 24 hours later, not quite the same representation of what you saw coming down the church aisle. So now, is that deception? Think about your Facebook or Face to Insta Snap to Chat pictures you put on there, right? So we call it filters, right? You're like, you got some haggard eyes or whatever, and you're like, I need to fix those eyeballs. Or your nose is off of 3 degrees, and you correct it with a filter or whatever. You're like, gosh, Sally, your nose looks it's so straight. It looks straighter on Facebook than it does in real life. I don't get it. So here's the thing, ready? So this is gonna sound a little bit weird. Not all deception is sinful deception. So there's illusion that we as suspecting people know is true. You go to a magic club, you know what you're getting. A guy's not really pulling a rabbit out of thin air. It's illusion. We appreciate illusion. And beauty is part of that. It's an accentuation of what's already there, which is fine. It's nothing wrong with that. But the issue becomes when you try to deceive people with sinful intent, to take advantage of them in ways that they're not expecting. I don't expect to pay more for this, but you deceive me into paying more. So there's an issue of illusion, which can be fine. It's fun. I love to go to magic shows. I love those things. We got those people in our church. But the other side is it's deceit with intent to rip you off in a sinful way. I intend to have you not know what I know so that I can take advantage of you. That's wicked. Deception in action emanates from the darkness of our own motivations. And here, this might surprise you too. We share satanic values when we choose to deceive, as deception is a passive form of lying that originates from hatred of God and truth. So watch. You are a native liar. Why would I say that? Why would I say that I'm a native liar? Think about, anybody have kids in here? Let's talk about your kids for a second. You know what's crazy? This is one of the craziest things about being a parent, is this. You get pregnant, and you're like, oh, I'm pregnant with, our first baby or whatever. And you're like, yay, babe, everybody's happy, and they throw you a shower and stuff. And so you finally bring this baby into the world. And you're like, yay, Gertrude's here, or whatever you name your baby, right? And so you bring Gertrude home, and you're so excited, and blah, blah, blah. And so all you've done, listen, their whole lives, from the moment you bring them home from Temecula Valley Hospital, you bring them into your house, literally, you're changing diapers. You're up at 3 a.m. They're barfing all over the place. You're cleaning up stuff. You're cleaning their butts and the carpet and the dog, and they start to grow and grow and grow. All you've done your whole life is take care of this child. Literally, you've done everything. Literally, they wouldn't survive if it wasn't for mom and dad. Then they hit about 2. And this weird thing happens where you're talking to your daughter, Gertrude, and you see Gertrude, and you go, sweetie, have you been in the Jolly Ranchers in the kitchen? And your 2-year-old, has a Jolly Rancher stuck to the side of their face. And they go, no, I don't like Jolly Ranchers. And they got like a Jolly Rancher all over their face and stuck to their cheek. In this moment, watch, your child has just displayed a sinful heart. There's not a reason that child should lie to you, because all you've done has been good to them their whole lives. Literally, nobody sat down with you 2 years ago and go, here's the deal. Here's how to lie. You're going to take a course on lying for 2-year-olds, right? No, it's so native to us. We go, I'm going to lie. Of course, I don't want to get in trouble. I want to take advantage of the situation. I want somebody to like me, so I'm going to lie about how great I am or what I do or blah, blah, blah. We always lie. We are lying people. And it comes from our nature. Listen, you're born with that. It's your native tongue. And here's my encouragement to you. Deception should not be true of the men and women of God. So watch, when your 2-year-old lies to you, you go, sweetie, Gertrude, number one, you're lying to daddy. I'm going to tear the thing off your face. This shows, daddy, you've lied. So here's how we're going to deal with it, Gertrude. Some daughters, you can just look at and go, hey, I'm really disappointed in you. And they're like, oh gosh, I'll never do it again. And their lives will change right there. So my sisters, I grew up with all females in my house. It was like me and 58 females. Even the dog was females, just females everywhere. So my sisters, if my dad looked at them and go, you know what, gosh, I'm super disappointed in what you did. That really it disappoints me as your father. It disappoints me that you're Jackson and you represented our family like that. I'm super disappointed in you. I mean, my sister's just like, I'll never do it again. And they didn't. To this day, they're like 150 years old or however old they are. Sorry. And they haven't. Well, here it was different with me, right? So my sisters, basically like, hey, you screwed up. Please don't do that again. Oh, done. They like, I changed my behavior. Me, they're like, hey, Jim, did you do that? Oh man, I don't have to answer to you, man. I do what I want. So here's what happened. My dad had to go, One form of discipline, which was just loving counsel. Hey, you're off in this area. Can you please stop that? I love you. Let's not do that again. That works for some people. For my sisters, it worked. For me, it took information to travel from my butt to my brain. So we had a thing in my house called a paddle, okay? And so the paddle would help information travel through my nervous system to help me understand. See, so not everybody needs that level of discipline. Some people are like, please stop that, and they do. Some people, though, need extra help to understand that's unacceptable. And me as your parent, because I love you, that's not going to happen anymore. So here's a reason you do that. Because you don't want a lying 2-year-old to be a lying 20-year-old. That's the reason you do that, okay? So for this reason, God doesn't like that in any of us, the lying, deceptive, because that's literally from the depths of the wickedness of our heart. I know you've taken care of me my whole life, but I don't even care. I'm going to lie to you right to your face anyway. That just comes from, it's satanic. It's lying. It's vulgar and wicked. So because that's so offensive to God in all of our hearts, God uses whatever means necessary to get us to come to him, to repent of our sin, to repent of that nature that wants us self-focused and go, God, I want to be God-focused. Why? Because God is truth, and I have to align with truth or else I'm wrong. I don't get to make up my own truth. I get to either decide if I'm going to follow truth or I'm going to follow myself. I either follow deception of my own mind or I follow God. There is not a middle road. And here's the principle. Deception is native to our sinful selves, but should be foreign to our saved selves. All of us are born sinners. You will never be perfect. I will never be perfect as your pastor. I pray for forgiveness all the time in areas I fail in, but I want you to understand, you should not be failing to stay where you are. You should be failing towards Christ. In other words, I should be more like Jesus today than I was a year ago. And I should have been more like Jesus a year ago than I was a year before that. And I should be more like Jesus being however old I am than I was when I was 2. But if your heart never changes, you stay wicked your whole life. Regardless if you're 2 or 20 or 200. Why? Because you take your heart with you. And unless God changes your heart, you'll always be lying and deceptive and manipulative. Look at Jeremiah 17:9. Jeremiah 17:9 says this, the heart, our heart, is deceitful above all things, and it's desperately sick. Who can understand it? So ready? We're going to walk to the deep end of the pool. I need you to swim with me for a second. Don't get lost. I'm going to throw you a life preserver, but we're going to go to the deep end of the pool. Everybody ready? I know you came here for donuts and take a nap, but that isn't this church. We don't sleep here, we learn, okay? So listen, watch. Our culture says this. Come back to me. Our culture says this. How I feel about myself is true for me. You can't tell me I'm wrong. There was a guy named Bruce Jenner. I remember, it's a true story. I remember sitting at my table in northern Minnesota in like 1976 or whatever that was. I was like 6 years old or whatever I was back then. I remember this moment. I'm sitting there eating a box of Wheaties, an orange box of Wheaties. I'm pouring out Wheaties, and I remember looking at that box, and Bruce is on there, got his nice little chest hair going, and he's got these gold medals hanging around his chest. And I just remember going, dude, what a stud. What a stud. Fast forward 25, 30 years. Bruce has decided, I've always felt like a woman my whole life. Call me Caitlin. I'm going to put on a dress. I'm going to put on makeup. I'm going to present myself as female. And I want you to refer to me as she. Here's the thing. Our culture would go, don't make them feel bad, because how a person feels is true for them. How are you not to tell somebody that they can't be a female? Well, here's the deal. Ready? When Bruce goes to a doctor and takes his clothes off, he's a man. A doctor would look at Bruce / et al. Caitlin and go, I'm going to treat you for male problems. I don't treat you for a female because you think you're a female in your mind, because your body tells me you're a male. Literally every gene in your body says male. Now watch this. Even if, because Bruce is still a male, so this is going to get real funky in a church service. He still has all his male equipment, okay? So watch, even if he does a sex reassignment surgery to align what he would view as his sexuality with how he views himself, he is still a man. To this degree, I go into the doctor as Bruce / Caitlin, and I go, I'm having heart problems. Guess what the doctor does? He treats me as a man dealing with heart problems, because males have different problems than females, and females have different problems health-wise than males. So when you check yourself into a doctor, the doctor goes, you're a man. I don't care how you feel in your mind. I'm going to treat your body for what it is, which is male. So watch. Here's how you deal with that without being hateful. Because our culture goes, the minute you say, you're wrong, they go, hater, hater, hater. You say this. It's a lot like dealing with your kids, going, here's what truth is. Come join me. I love you, but truth tells me if I'm wrong or not. Truth tells me if I feel a certain way about myself that isn't accurate, the correct thing is counseling, not surgery. Because surgery is irreparable. You can't go backwards. If you think I'm kidding, you younger people that go, oh, this is like an old guy gushing about something he doesn't know what to talk about, go ahead and Google sex change regret. Because that's what people aren't telling you, young kids. It's people that have gone through this and gone, I tried to align my sexuality with how I felt, and it didn't help. I still feel disjointed, even though now I destroyed my genitalia. Because you can't go back. It destroys your nerve endings, and it doesn't make you a woman or a man. So I say that for this reason. You have been fed a lie, which is the way a person feels is true for them. What's actually true is what's truly true, which is how God views us. So it doesn't matter how we feel about myself. I can think things, my heart is deceitfully wicked. I can think things that are about myself that aren't true. Then I need somebody to step into my life and go, I love you, but that's just not true. Let me counsel you through how to feel correctly. So love always points to the truth, not in a hateful way, but in a loving way. Like when your kids are wrong, you don't just let them live wrong. You go, I'm going to correct you. Why? Because I hate you? I'm going to correct you because I love my kids. #wow, right? We can be loving and truthful at the same time. It's not opposite. You can be loved and have people go, you're just off in this area. Let's walk together through it. But instead, we let people stumble towards destruction because they're running away from God, who loves them. What does Jesus call me to practice? Truthfulness. How do I want to be? I want to be deceptive. Even my own mind, I want to be deceptive. I can deceive myself. What does Jesus call me to practice? Truthfulness. In a world of fake news, the Bible presents truth as objective. Objective means it doesn't matter how I feel, it's still true. Objective means even if everybody in the whole planet was taken off the planet and there's not one person on the earth, truth is still truth. Even without people, truth is still there. So now me as a human, I discover truth. I don't make truth. Let me give you this example. Ready? Remember that time you went out to the club and you got high on Molly's or whatever, you were on PCP, and you snapped out some drugs and you started to hallucinate. And there's going, and you're there with all your bros or your girls or whatever. You went out for a girls' night out and you you started tripping on some drugs. And all of a sudden you go, I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. And you go this. Hey, you know what? Bro, I think I can fly. Bro, I'm a bird, bro. I'm a bird. Let's do this, man. I'm gonna fly, son. And all your friends are like, whoa, calm down, man. And you're like, nope, I'm going to the top of this club. And you go up to the top of the club, and you get on the roof of the club, and you're like 5 stories up in like downtown Los Angeles, and you go to the edge of that thing like, I'm gonna fly. Now here's the thing. Your friends are up there with you. They know the way you're viewing yourself is inaccurate to who you are, which is not a bird. Listen, the way you feel in that moment is incorrect to who you are. So your friends are unloving to you if they don't say to you, stop, you're not a bird. But our culture would go, hey bro, you feel like a bird? Let's do this. And guess what happens? Objectivity happens, which is gravity is objective. Gravity is not subjective. Subjective means it's subject to how I feel. Things change based on how I feel. Objective says, doesn't matter how I feel, exists. One of those things is called gravity. Gravity will take you to the ground in a hurry, even if you think you're a bird. So loving friends go, let's look at the truth, which is non-birdishness of you. And love says, I know how you feel, let's be what's true. And that person could go, man, you hate me. You hate the birdness in me. And friends go, nope. I'm trying to love you because I don't want you to die, because gravity is objective, and so is your non-birdness, which means subjectivity says, I'm a bird. Objectivity says, I'm a man. Same thing with truth. Truth exists whether we acknowledge it or not, and that's God. You can be an atheist, and you even have to use logic, which God created logic. You even have to use logic to say there's no God, even though God created your logical ability to even realize logic is a thing. It's like saying this. Listen to me. Oh, I know we're getting deep. I'm going to come back out of the pool for a second, but hang on. This church is more than donuts and coffee, so listen. Ready? It's like saying this. I believe that words have no meaning. Well, you're using words with meaning to tell me that words have no meaning. So it's a self-defeater. It's a self-defeater. It's like saying, I don't believe in people that speak. You go, well, dude, you're speaking. You mean you don't believe in yourself? I don't believe that people that speak are real people. Well, you're assuming that you're real because you're telling me something and you're speaking, so you're self-defeating the thing you're trying to say. And that's the thing it is with truth. You can say truth doesn't exist, but you actually have to use truth as a baseline to say truth doesn't exist, because you're saying in your phrase, truth doesn't exist, that truth is really true. Because if there was no truth, you couldn't even make a phrase, truth doesn't exist, because you're assuming truth doesn't exist is true, but truth doesn't exist. Okay, moving on. Okay, so here we go. I'm sliding back into my philosophy days. I'm going to come back out of that. Okay, here we go. In a world of fake news, the Bible presents truth as objective. It exists whether you and I want to accept it or not, rather than subjective, how I feel about myself. Much of philosophy and human reason views truth as being created only when an individual makes it so. However, biblical theology regards truth as arising from God himself, which can be known. Look at John 8:32, words of Jesus. John 8:32 says this, look at it. And you will know the what? The truth. Is it possible to know truth outside of your own mind? It absolutely is. You will know the truth, and what will the truth do? Set you free. You don't need people to tell you everything's fine when you want to jump off a building and saying you're a bird. What you need people is to lovingly say to you, here's what's true, you're not a bird, please let me save you. Let me keep you from destroying yourself. You can deceive your own mind into thinking something's true that actually isn't true. So how do we know what's true? God is true and his word is true. If God is true, the things that emanate from God are also true. How do I know if I'm right? Not how I feel, but based on what God's word says. That's how I know what true is. God's truth is so fundamental to living that without his objective truth, it exists outside of us, there is no subjective truth. I can't even say things are true in my own life if God doesn't have a foundation of truth outside of me. And here's a principle, ready? God's truth is the true truth, regardless of personal truths. So watch, everybody look at me. It's possible to say, I know what's true because it's how I feel about it. So you can think you're true, but if you're off with true truth, it means you're wrong. Everybody still with me? This is heavy duty lifting. I know some of you guys are like, I haven't engaged my brain in 14 years. Listen, it's possible to say, I have truth in my own life, but if it doesn't align with true truth, God's truth, then my truth is wrong. I'm in error. I'm deceived. I've deceived myself. I think I'm something I'm not. So the loving thing to do is say, my friend, here's what truth is. Come see truth together. Not hate, but love. Love says, let's change. Come with me. Though not all people in all situations have a right to full disclosure just by asking a question, believers are never to lie to cover the truth. This is huge. Listen to me. If you're online listening to me, listen to me. If you're Afghanistan or wherever you are right now, it doesn't matter where you are. My encouragement to you is this. If you're a believer, don't ever lie. Don't lie to your husband if you're overspending behind his back. Don't lie to your wife if you're burying your family in gambling debt that no one knows about, or you're cheating on your spouse. I'm telling you right now, don't ever lie. Why? Because God is against you. Because if you're choosing against the truth, which God is true no matter how I feel, if you're choosing against that, you're choosing something wicked, which is I lie and deceive myself and others. Don't be a liar, because deception is just passive lying. It's presenting something as truth that actually isn't even true. God is against you. God will bless you when you walk in integrity, because God knows your heart, God knows what you should have done, and you didn't do it. God will bless you financially. You might take less money if you don't deceive people. My encouragement to you is always do the right thing, and God will get your back. If you always fight for every dime and you deceive for every dollar, I can tell you this, you already have your reward. God will not get your back. God blesses integrity. God crushes deception. Why? Because God is truth outside of me. I align with him. He doesn't align with me. And here's the thing. Sometimes I'll get asked this. Should I always tell the truth? Yeah, you should always tell the truth. Well, what about like in Nazi Germany, where the Secret Service came to Germans who were hiding Jews, and they go, hey, are you hiding Jews in here? I hear. Oh gosh, I wish I could teach this stuff, but I can't. It's too much. I'll walk into ethics for a second. Ready? Here's how do you deal with it? How do you deal with it when somebody asks you a question? Are you bound to give them full disclosure just because they asked you a question? And this is key. No, you are not. There are people who deserve full disclosure, and there are people who do not deserve full disclosure. If you're cheating on your wife and she says, are you cheating on me? She deserves full disclosure, and you tell her, because she's connected to the question you're asking. If somebody walks up to you at the Promenade Mall and goes, are you cheating on your wife? And he's a total stranger. Now that might be a thing from God to stop doing whatever you're doing. But it's none of his business. He's not connected to this. I owe him nothing. So when someone comes up with wicked intent going, hey, is your daughter inside because I want to rape her and kill her, and I'm going to kill you too, you know the minute you do that, something bad's going to happen. So do I lie to him and dishonor God and say something that's not true? No. Why? Because he doesn't deserve full disclosure of things. He doesn't have any authority over me in that situation for me to tell him full disclosure. So what you do is you say what Jesus says. This is so amazing. Gosh, I wish I had time to do this. I can't. I don't have time. But John 18, Jesus actually does this thing so perfectly. At his trial, they're trying to get him to say he's a king so that they can convict him of usurping the Caesar. They want to make him a guy that needs to go die. So Jesus, he is a king. He's a stinking king of kings. So is Jesus going to lie when the guy comes up to Jesus and goes, when Pilate comes up to Jesus and goes, so are you a king? Jesus doesn't answer yes or no. You know what he does? It's so fantastic. He goes, sounds like you're saying I'm a king. Dude, it's so, oh gosh, I'm just irritated at myself. I wish I had time to do this. I don't have time to do this because this deals with ethics. But I want to make this point to you, okay? Just because someone asks you a question, they don't in any scenario, they don't have full authority to get full disclosure. There are people, though, that deserve your full disclosure. You're doing business with, your spouse, your kids, whatever. There are people at certain levels of your life that deserve full disclosure. But there are other people that can walk up and go, hey, what's the code to your house? I heard you're going on a vacation next week, and I'd love to go into your house. He doesn't deserve full disclosure. So you can speak in ways that give information that's appropriate to the person asking you a question without lying. Gosh, I wish I could get into it. I can't. So let me give you this. Ready? I have these cards. When we take communion, I have truthfulness cards. Some of you guys need to take about 58 of these home with you. Okay? So when you take communion, grab a bunch of these cards, put them everywhere that you're tempted to lie or deceive. Go home, get off of Snapchat and places that you know that you're getting into trouble in because you're lying and deceiving. Get rid of things in your life that are covert. Be a person of integrity. Be a woman of integrity. Get rid of the trash in your life. Take the trash out of your life. You'll feel better about your own life because you're a person of integrity. And number two, God will honor you. God blesses those of integrity. God crushes those of deception. For me, for you, for everybody. So take a card home to remind you, I need to be truthful today and tell the truth in love. If your wife asks you if she's fat, go, I love you no matter what. I love you at any weight, baby. You look amazing. You're the best looking woman I've ever seen in my entire life. That's standing in front of me right now.